Hey guys, what's up? Wanted to have a discussion about concealed carry and some of the first steps that I view to be somewhat prerequisites before you begin to step off on your journey of carrying a concealed handgun about your person in public environments. And we've seen over the past few years that constitutional carry has begun to spread to more and more states, including my state of South Carolina. They adopted constitutional carry, maybe I think it was last year, and it could have possibly been the year before that. It's 2025 now, but I think it was last year in 2024. But either way, it didn't really change a whole lot for me as an individual, but it does change things for a lot of people, right? So I still maintain my permit and everything like that. But the thing about it is that now, with these different requirements going in across the board in multiple different states, you're going to have more people that are just going to be carrying guns because they can do so legally now, right? So with that being the case, I think it's important to at least have a discussion and get our brains thinking about certain aspects of this stuff, because this is a serious topic that we're talking about, right? So I wrote down and made some notes about 4 first steps that I think are a great idea. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in any particular order. And it doesn't mean that if you're already exercising your Second Amendment rights and carrying a firearm concealed about your person in a public fashion, that doesn't mean that, oh, you screwed up or anything like that. This is just my opinion after doing this stuff for, 15 years now. So, and I've learned a lot of different things over that period of time. So let's just go right ahead and talk about these 4 things that I think are a really good idea for people that are new to concealed carry. So number 1 is gaining an understanding of your state's firearm laws. And especially, I think that it's important that you understand the legality and the parameters around which you can, if need be, employ deadly force, right? Now, that's something that we don't necessarily want to have to ever do. Nobody wants to deal with that, right? Because we're good people. And we don't want to have to deal with that. We don't want things to come to that. But if they do, then we need to understand what our legal capabilities are, so that we can continue to operate within the law. That way we don't get ourselves in some sort of legal trouble and end up throwing our lives away and going through some prolonged legal battle through the court system, losing our career, our job, and possibly being away from our families, right? So that nobody wants that. And that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to protect the people that we love. And really, one of the only ways that we can do that is by being able to continue to go through life with those folks, right? So that's important. So you need to understand that stuff. And while we're on that subject, I think it's very important to go directly to the source and determine what your state's laws are. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, we're not going to ask Johnny or Tim or Randy or whoever the hell, right? They may be right, but at the same time, I understand the laws pretty good because I've been studying them since I started carrying firearms, right? And I still take it upon myself to share the direct sources for the information with people when they ask me about it. People will ask me about it. Hey, what's the law on this or that? Hey, look, I can tell you, maybe I can't tell you. And if I can't, I won't bullshit you. I'll just be like, hey, I'm not real sure off the top of the head. I'll look it up and I will send you the link via text message so that you can go directly to the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division website, which is who governs firearms laws in our state. Now, that's going to vary by states, and it's up to you to determine that information and that sourcing. And you have to go to those websites and you have to read this information. It's going to take you multiple times to read it, right? Because it's written by lawyers. So it's not going to necessarily always be cut and dried. So you're going to have to go in there and study this stuff. I've been looking and paying attention to this stuff, studying it for years, over a decade now. And obviously things change. Our state law in South Carolina changed a couple of years ago or a year ago. So things change. So you have to, it's not like you just read it one time and then you're done, because you're going to get left out in the rain and then you're going to make a mistake thinking that something is the way that it used to be, but they already changed that. So that is that is your responsibility to stay up to date on the laws and stuff surrounding all this stuff, right? So that's number one, because I hear a lot of people spreading misinformation, and probably not willingly, but I'll hear people saying, hey, look, if this right here is the way it is, but that's really not the way it is. Or maybe they left out some details, or maybe they didn't give enough context to the situation, right? So it's important to not rely on other people's interpretation of this stuff that maybe they heard from 3 other guys, 2 years ago, and now they're giving you some bullshit version of it. But at the end of the day, you betting your life on this information. So it's important that you go find that information for yourself. I mean, it has to be that important to you, or maybe this ain't for you. Number 2, get some basic firearm safety instruction, right? Because now you don't have to have a concealed weapons permit, so you don't have to go through their little qualification course. It's not really training, it's just a qualification course. And I've seen a lot of people in those classes that really were not at the step or the point that they should have even been handling hot weapons. So a lot of people tend to just jump right in there and skip a lot of shit that I consider to be prerequisites, which is why we're having this conversation, folks. So get some basic firearm safety instruction. There's sources out there. There are resources available for you. You can figure this stuff out. It's really not rocket science. And once you understand it and you practice it and you live by it, it's going to become second nature to you. And that's what it has to be. That way we can stay safe and we're not having accidents or negligence play a role in screwing up our lives or possibly costing somebody their life, right? Because firearms are a serious deal. All right, so that's number 2. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is, and this won't necessarily apply across the board, right? Because a lot of people may have grown up shooting guns and stuff like that, which is in itself, that could be quite dangerous, right? The people that used to grow up shooting soda cans or some shit with 22s at grandpa's farm, that doesn't mean they're competent firearms handlers. And in fact, the opposite is probably true. They could probably got a higher sense of confidence and a super low level of actual skill and capability. So watch out for that as well. That can be dangerous. So get some basic firearm safety instruction. You can go to an accredited source and get that. You can tap into somebody and use your discernment as far as who is actually knowing what the hell they're talking about, and get plugged in with somebody that you know and trust and get the information that you need, right? And the thing about that, which will bring us to our next point, is number 3, is get some live fire practice on the range, right? So, well, you figure, oh, well, I just said get some basic firearm safety instruction. But a lot of times, if it's it depends. So a lot of times you may find that a basic firearm safety instruction course may not even include live fire at all, right? It may not, and that's okay, because there's other steps that you have to go through before you just go out and start squeezing off live ammunition, right? You got to be competent first. You got to display a level of competency and safety. So get some live fire practice on the range. And if you got an indoor range or something like that where they rent guns, that's cool. So you can go over there and you can rent different guns and you can get an idea of what's what and figure out kind of what your preferences might be. That's a huge thing, right? That's a big deal. So that would be number 3 for me. And then finally, and most certainly not least, will be number 4, which is take a basic first aid or stop the bleed course. So basic first aid or stop the bleed. And that's something that I think that all of us as Americans should have, especially if you have small children. If you're a parent, a mother or a father, a wife or husband, you'd be surprised how many people don't have any clue about that stuff. CPR, right? First aid. That's a big deal, people. You're skipping over a lot of things, even if you just skip that one. And I'm not necessarily saying that if you've been carrying that you need to go put your gun in the safe and don't carry it again until you take one. But what I'm saying is that this needs to be at the forefront of your mind, and you need to make it a priority so that you can get that box checked. And also, you're going to have refreshers on this stuff, because you're going to forget some of it, right? And you're going to have to take these courses every couple of years so that it can get ingrained into you. And then it'll be where it's always back here, right? So that's a big thing. And you can get basic first aid from like the American Heart Association, Red Cross and stuff like that. And a lot of times they offer those courses free. So a quick Google search in your area and you can likely find these courses for free. Depending on what you do for a career, or maybe even if you're on a church safety team or something like that, then you likely have different avenues to approach obtaining that type of training. So think about it. You really need that. If you're carrying a tool around that can make holes in things or people, then you need to be able to patch holes in people, right? You need to be able to treat traumatic injuries. And traumatic injuries go far and wide beyond the scope of dealing with these, because shit happens. Shit just happens, right? So you need to be prepared for that. That's just a baseline level of preparedness. So, in my opinion, these things fall under our basic responsibility as responsibly armed citizens, period. That's just the way it is. And just remember, folks, our goal is to solve problems and not to add to them. So that's what I got for y'all. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, this was definitely not about gear or holsters or magazine capacity or 9mm versus 40 versus 45 or none of that other bullshit. All that is fine, but that's not the conversation that we're having right now. We're having a conversation from the baby steps, from ground zero of how to get started. And the thing about it is that if you can cover these kinds of bases or even a few of them and understand that these things are very important, then what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to approach concealed carry from a more knowledgeable position. And there is nothing bad about that at all, right? It's gonna help you be on an accelerated path to be successful when it comes to this stuff. Because I've seen a lot of people, I won't really say a lot of people, but I know that there's a lot of people, and I've seen some that'll just be like, oh, well, I can carry my shit now. I can carry my pistol. So they just throw it on. They throw it in some damn joggers or some sweatpants in the pocket with extended clip, quote unquote, right? We know that's not the right nomenclature, but you get what I'm saying. They put the extendo in there and they just out here doing life. The shit falls out walking through the mall and all kinds of different just negligent bullshit that we've seen. And it's not good. It's not good for the Second Amendment. It's not good for gun culture. And it's not good for people that are around. You know, it's just a inherently unsafe situation. And we got to get away from that. We need to move in the right direction, folks. Because the Second Amendment's for everybody. I'll see y'all. I'm out.